We're here for the deal makers, the revenue generators, the margin expanders, for distributors, manufacturers, and retailers, for the Lone Ranger, calculating rebates in spreadsheets, and the large teams overseeing complex deals. We're here to connect rebate experts with each other, to build a community of leaders and forward thinkers, to help you connect with other rebate experts so you can learn from each other and grow your careers. It's time to join the most exclusive community for rebate strategy on the internet. We're here for the rebate strategists.
And we're back. It's that time already, Mark.
It is.
It's the Great Rebaters. I'm the Gator. This is the Professor.
I'm still not comfortable putting the Professor there. I'm just going with Mark.
You're just going with Mark today?
Yeah, Professor makes me sound old. Makes me. Mark is my younger version of me.
It doesn't make you sound old at all. It makes you sound refined, wise, knowledgeable. All those things.
Smooth.
So, listen, we have another guest joining us today. Another one. We're excited about that. But before we get into this guest, Mark, Mark was my chaperone last week, and I don't even want to say chaperone. He was my guy. Like, I went to the UK last week to visit a few customers, and he took me on a tour, which was fruitful. It was insightful. Everything was great. So, Mark, I had a blast with you, I must say. We talked about
Reggie.
You shared the food. Even our next guest, we talked about the culture, which I'm not going to get into it because listen, I love the UK. I love it. I love it. From like the weather was amazing.
Oh
yeah.
You got the full experience as well.
Oh yeah, full experience.
All the different types of rain that we get.
Oh, rain in the morning, rain in the afternoon, rain in the evening. It was amazing. Yeah. But let's bring on our guest, shall we? Right? He's waiting in the background, and his name is Gareth Toohey from ACS. He's a commercial director at ACS, and we're going to be bring him on to talk about special pricing agreements, why they're important, the complexities behind them, and we're going to learn a whole lot from him. So, without further ado, let's introduce Gareth.
Hi, the Gator. Hi, the Professor, aka Mark. How are you all doing?
Nice to have you here, Gareth.
Nice to be here.
Gareth, that is marketing 101. Like, look at the background.
This is because we don't do enough with our rebates, you see, so we can't afford to have a proper sign put on the wall. But it's a new office, so the marketing person, i.e. myself and a printer, stuck it on the wall just for this very special occasion.
Brilliant.
I'm glad that you've got a colour printer. I think that makes the difference.
I think it's a very outstanding logo, don't you agree? Inner strength in construction, and that's what we are at ACS. Inner strength in construction.
Well, Gareth, you already have fans. Like, look, Chris Odell is saying thanks for joining. Like,
oh, thank you, Chris. That's lovely.
I never knew we were going to have a celebrity on this show today. This is amazing. I like it.
I wouldn't say that. I'm a celebrity in my own lifetime, I think. So, yeah.
See all this happiness Gareth's bringing to this call as well. It's, kind of a bit different to our prior conversation about the British culture, but we'll get back there. Don't you worry.
I think it's the Irish roots in me, Mark. It's the Irish roots, isn't it? I have to have a little bit that's cheerful.
Absolutely. And I think what really excites me about this call, just to kind of set the scene, is for many years, every month I'd give Gareth his rebate numbers. And every month Gareth would just look at me and just say, and the rest of it. it was always, Gareth was in that commercial role. I was in the finance role. And the boot is on the other foot now. We get to ask the questions. So I'm really looking forward to, but don't worry, Gareth, there's nothing horrible in there. Reggie, or should I say the Gator, and I've just remembered now, the Gator, isn't that the Will Ferrell's character in The Other Guys? Have you seen that film?
I've seen The Other Guys, but I just can't remember if that was his.
Don't make Gator mad. I remember that.
Oh yeah, like Gator was given to me because I'm an instigator at heart.
I like it.
So short form, Gator.
Like it.
Yeah. And because I'm only 21 years old, at that age you love to be the instigator. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so much wisdom in such a young face. It's
yeah.
I'm really looking forward to being on the other foot, Mark. Because like Mark mentioned, we used to give him a hard time every month trying to pull our numbers. We were in the trading business. Mark was at the centre, calculating the numbers, being some kind of magician, pulling rabbits out of hats, not for our side, but sometimes for his own. And we would then be sat questioning why we haven't made any profit in the month, or not the profit that we would have liked to have made. And then we'd spend a month trying to interrogate the numbers just to get to the same number that Mark had given us in our accounts anyway. So, it's quite nice to be on the other foot.
For me, it was always one of these where, because there was obviously a number of different brands, and some were more sophisticated than others. You guys like to get really into the numbers, which in some respects was great because it meant we had similar conversations. But on the other side, it meant that actually you were very inquisitive. So, as stakeholders go, I don't mind saying Gareth was quite a needy stakeholder at times. But ultimately, we all wanted the same thing, which was to kind of get to the truth. And make sure that, a business, like the business Gareth worked in, so many people rely on those numbers to be right because you're making big decisions every single month that affect people's livelihoods. And when rebate is multiples of the bottom line and you get that rebate number just slightly wrong, that's a big effect on that bottom line. So, I always appreciated kind of what's the right way to put it? Kind of the enthusiasm that Gareth was bringing to the conversations because it was important. I wouldn't say I was looking forward to it, especially when I ran the numbers and I thought, "Ooh, this month doesn't look so good." But ultimately, we always we got to the truth, and that was so important. So. Reggie, do you want to ask a question, or do you want me to dive in?
Absolutely. I was just waiting for you just to go off of that, that ramble in terms of your background with Gareth. But yeah, like we're gonna talk about special pricing agreements, aka claimbacks, aka contract support, and here at Enable, we've developed our special agreements solution. We understand that there's a market for it. We understand that there's a lot of complexities related to special pricing agreements. And, Gareth, you are an expert within this realm. And, I think this is a good opportunity for us to educate the audience in terms of, the complexities behind it, how they're managed, and where do you see the opportunities in order to kind of streamline and build efficiencies around the process? So maybe we start off at the beginning, like from your side of the fence, what is special pricing agreements?
So in our business, we predominantly talk about claimbacks. So this is where a manufacturer goes and does a deal with a supplier. It's actually below our cost price, what we would buy into our yards. And then they give us a kickback of money back every month to offset the price that they want us to sell at a customer, plus our service fee for being able to pick and deliver that product. And then claimbacks will vary anything from low single digits to high double digit margins. And I think if you talk in terms of UK merchanting, and it'd be no different to American merchanting or Canadian or whichever country, you have three real levers to operate on. You've got your sales level, your margins, and your cost base. and featuring into your margin is your rebate and your claim back numbers. And when you operate a business like ours, in my previous world, such a high percentage of your margin, your profit comes back in from either a claim back position or a rebate position. And again, if there's people from different countries, rebate for us is literally we buy something from a supplier, and at year end, if we hit certain volume numbers, they give us some money back. Claim back is very much we're selling below our cost price, we're claiming back the difference plus a service fee to be able to deliver and pick product. And if you actually turn and look at that and say, if you started from scratch, would you do claim backs? You probably wouldn't. They're very time consuming. The margin for error in getting the numbers wrong and actually having a business losing money very quickly is high. But they're a necessary evil, because otherwise, unless a manufacturer wants to sell to you at a very rock bottom price on everything that you sell, in return, we would sell at a rock bottom price and lower our margin and our profit. So they serve a purpose, does claim backs or SPAs, whatever you wish to call them. They serve a real purpose in protecting profit for not only us as a distribution partner, but also for a manufacturer who doesn't want to sell everything at a rock bottom price. So it allows you to tailor your pricing point in reality.
Okay. And actually, that's a really good point, guys. So in a way, they create a floor.
They do.
Because without that floor, competition would just keep pushing the price down and down and down until nobody's making any money.
Well, it's always a chase to the bottom, isn't it? And whoever you introduce me to, we'll always have this debate about showing our colleagues the true net cost of something or hiding prices. Experience suggests, and whichever company we've worked within, that the more net price information you provide to people at a trading level, they go to this cost plus basis rather than a list less discount. So you end up trading on a smaller margin all the time. It's this race to the bottom, where all of a sudden you've got a real challenge in the viability, the profitability of your business going forward. So how you protect the profit is critically important without, I may add, hindering the ability to trade going forward. And that's why claim backs give an element of control in a business, an element of control that they're strategically deployed to the customers where you want to get your biggest bang, and they allow that collaboration between supply chain, us as a middleman, a distributor, and the end user to get to a position that works for all parties.
Okay, cool. And then, like, what about like the management of it? So, because what you provided there was a great background in terms of, you know, how special pricing and claimbacks actually work. You know, we talk about profitability, maintaining profits, especially for your partners and so forth, right? So that they could sell through to the end user without having to bleed any of that margin, right? Because that's obviously you want to be able to protect that. When it comes to the complexities of the management of it, can you kind of describe that?
Oh, do you know, I look, I was a user, we were a user of Enable in the previous company for rebates. We didn't use it for claimbacks. And I think once we get to a point of somebody being able to do it amazingly well, and again, I think you boys are certainly on the journey, we would use it straight away, because the reality is it's paperwork. And different companies, whether it's ourselves, our main competitors, it's a time-consuming piece of work. And it isn't time-consuming putting them in place. It's actually maintaining them when they are in place. So if you go across the commodity price changes that we've had over the last 12 months, so we're not having price increases once a year, twice a year. In reality, we could be having them every 4 or 5 weeks. The cost price has been changing. The amount of staff resource that goes into just to make updating the claimback system, even on the computer system, and then claiming that money back and then matching it back into the correct business unit. So if you take, we would have had a significant multi-millions of pounds worth of claimbacks come into the business every month. And we would submit our claim to the manufacturer. They then query that claim, and we'd have ups and downs every single month. It never balanced perfectly. And those swings are not small amounts of money. It can be 2 or 3% of the entire claim. And that's hundreds of thousands of pounds a year difference. So the amount of effort that then goes into reconciling that money, querying that money and challenging the supplier back, it is just what I would call unproductive time, but a necessity to do it. Otherwise you're throwing away £200,000-300,000. Now, if you think that's in my business, that's also then in all the manufacturers that we deal with and all the merchant chains or distributors in our market, all doing the same thing. And it's just it's ridiculous, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's ridiculous. It's administration that creates no real value other than balancing something up that should match up, because we have an agreement in one hand, a system in the other, and it should just match up and be paid out. So I think any company that's looking to do claimbacks and expand the use, you need to have a system, because what you don't want to do is employ lots of people processing paperwork. And we were a 2% returning business, got it to 3%. We certainly couldn't afford to have people processing paperwork. Just didn't work for us. But yeah, complex, pain in the ass, if I'm honest. Sorry for swearing for our viewers. We were a pain in the ass.
You said something I recall when we spoke previously, Gareth, and this really resonated with me. When it comes to claimbacks, so you claim after you're actually claiming for money after you've already sold the goods.
Correct.
So if you get it wrong, you're in hot water, because
all the risk is with us. So if you look at the last 12 months where we've had this unprecedented material inflation, you look at some of our products where we have claimbacks, and the price has moved 60-70%, where normally that price would move 5% in the calendar year. It's moved 60-70%. And we weren't getting the amended claimbacks till 4 weeks after the price increase has gone on. So we're trading at a position for 4 weeks where we could be losing money. So you think of then having to retrospectively go back and reprocess all that paperwork. Now, I'm not blaming the manufacturer for that. They were in unprecedented times. Their most important thing was making sure the client, the end user, the house builder, got their price. But all the risk at that point then moves and transfers onto us as a distributor. So again, this manual process of lots of pieces of paper coming through, you think, I don't know how many claimbacks we'd have had as a business, 500-600 on one product range is similar. So we might have been dealing with 3,000 claimbacks, something like that. You imagine having to update that paperwork as often as we were doing, manually changing things. The amount of room for error was high, and we take that risk. The manufacturer doesn't take the risk because they just reject our claim. We take that risk. So it's high, without doubt.
And I suppose there's also the secondary side to this as well, Gareth, which is if it's actually your customer relationship, so you're the ones negotiating the price with that customer, there's a secondary process. There's one is agreeing the price with the end, the contractor, the builder. That in itself is quite a long-winded process, because you wouldn't just let your sales team go on the road and say whatever price they wanted. Absolutely. So when you get into claimback or SPA territory, you're playing with thinner margins. You've got that process working in tandem with, can we have support? All the pieces become quite conditional on each other. And then in your role, it's almost like you're waiting for all the pieces to nicely drop together. But that really, I'm assuming, really happens nicely, especially not through your mailbox.
Well, it doesn't, does it? So we're all on this email generation. So we're all out, we're all busy people, and we think we sent an email to somebody, and that means we've done our job. And it's about ownership, isn't it? So you look at you sat there, you do a deal, you think you've got a certain level of claim back. You slightly increase the discount a bit further, and then actually the waterfall effect of the claim back agreements, if you sell at this price, the margin you make now reduces slightly, and it keeps. So what you think you've got the profit in a deal, and again, it's the basics, isn't it? But educating people, like giving 1% extra discount, doesn't just mean that we've lost 1% of the profitability. It could account to that we've lost 20% of the profitability of an agreement, and it's these complexities which actually for us on this call and many people should be really basic things, but when you're caught up in the day-to-day trading world, all businesses run efficiently, so they're not over-resourced, and certainly in distribution we run our businesses incredibly tight/efficient. You've got to be all in your game. You've also got to think about in construction, it's not particularly an industry that people choose to come into. It tends to be an industry that people fall into. And it tends to be people, certainly in distribution, that are intelligent people, but not educationally intelligent, the people that have dropped out of school, started working in the yard, worked their way through a business. So the complexities in a commercial sense, a trading sense, of making profit and making money, it becomes even more difficult to manage on a day-to-day basis. That's why having systems and processes that don't hinder trading at the front end, but allow us to make money at the back end, are so important. So important. It's the difference between losing money and making profit, certainly in a 3% margin business.
And especially from a distribution standpoint, like even when you're managing like thousands of different SKUs, right, that are associated with a ton of different agreements and contracts, like the varying factor when it comes to making sure that those agreements in place are up to date with the relevant pricing, as you said, Gareth, exposes you to a lot of risk. So, and that manual aspect of it too, because we're humans at the end of the day. There's room for human error within that process, but it could be very detrimental to your bottom line, as you mentioned. So,
absolutely, and understanding. So, if you took our lintel business back at the previous company, we'd have had 10,000 codes just on one product range of lintels because of our agreements with all the national house builders. Now, in that, we would have different claimback levels for different groups of product from the same supplier. And again, for people to know that against hundreds and hundreds of accounts that we trade with, thousands of product lines, to remember those little details can be quite challenging. So the fact that we post everything in arrears, we get our claimbacks in arrears, we're identifying a problem when it's already happened. So then trying to get the monies back in can be a real challenge. Can be a real challenge. And it's not like you can go back to a customer and say, do you know what? We've made a mistake. We're going to re-invoice you at a higher level. You can do that once, but then you're not going to have a customer again down the line. So you have to take it on the chin. If it's our fault, our mistake, we need to deal with it and own it. But the thing is, with processes, technology, we need to use that to remove the opportunity for people to fail and give them more of an opportunity to succeed. And I think that's some of the work. You look at the work you've done on rebates, amazing. I'm really excited to see the stuff that you're doing on claimbacks in the future, because I think if it's as good as you've done on the rebate system, then claimbacks will be equally as user-friendly. So, yeah, really easy to lose £1 when actually it should be a really good selling point and a profit centre.
And I think one of the things you mentioned there, Gareth, was obviously the changes. So I don't think we saw it as much in the civil side, but one thing I used to notice in the bill-based side was a lot of their claimback agreements were annual, and what would happen is on the 1st of January,
fall off.
You'd have to renegotiate all of them all over again, or you'd automatically renew. The problem is you've got to reload all of them, because if you claim under the wrong agreement reference, it gets declined.
Correct.
So you spend the early part of the year trading on the hope and prayer that you have an agreement, because it does take time to get through all of these. And like you say, the goods are sold, they're gone. The customer's been invoiced. So it's too late now to kind of undo anything that's already happened.
So we probably didn't have as big a challenge as people would have in a general merchanting business, because we were specialist distribution, a smaller number of customers dealing with the biggest house builders in the country. But I suppose we did experience that when one of the suppliers decided that rather than having one claimback number for one house builder, they decided that they wanted a claimback number for every office of that house builder. So if you took something like Barratt Homes, 30 offices, instead of using one claimback reference for Barratt Homes, all of a sudden we had 30. Now you multiply that with all the national house builders that we dealt with, all of a sudden we've gone from having 10 or 12 claimback numbers to having 400 or 500 numbers. That was an absolute challenge to manage. And then every time that claimback expired, we have to renew it. So all of a sudden what was a really easy process for us became incredibly labour intensive. Incredibly labour intensive. And the ability then to put the wrong account number, the wrong claimback number against a house builder site, which is just a postcode in reality, we need to make sure that we're marrying the two, because it just gets thrown out with the claim. And because we were very honest with our claims, that we did an export and just sent the data, we had to supply all the data to our suppliers about where we supplied it to, who we supplied it to, account numbers, to be able to get the money back. It wasn't as simple as just saying, well, we've put it to the wrong account number. If you put it to the wrong account number, we've taken the hit. It's just tough luck. And that's really easy for us to sit at centre and say, do you know what, this is easy. How have you made a mistake picking the wrong account number? Well, all our accounts are set as trading names. So it would say Barrett Homes, Redrow Homes, and we could have 20 of those on the system because we set our accounts based on the trading legal entity of that company. So it's really easy for somebody to make an error. We just have to try and unpick it and catch it really quickly. So absolutely, Mark, easy to lose your money, easy to lose your shirt. Well, easy to lose your shirt if you two have a shirt on, to be fair.
No, we usually say you might lose your socks, but we have a solution for that as well, don't we, Mark?
Yeah, we work in sock distribution. So we'll definitely get you a pair as well, Gareth, for coming on. They are the latest in fashion. You know, they're ultra in demand. I'm surprised we haven't actually had our usual person on the asking for it. Where's his pair? Yeah, I just think it's just so easy to lose money on it.
No, without doubt. But that's part of the learning, isn't it? So as a business goes and develops, how it improves its systems and processes to free up its staff to focus at the front end is the difference between a business being successful in the longer term, isn't it? The way that you streamline your back office processes, great believer in small central cost, focusing on the front end, dealing with customers. And I suppose that's where construction, whether it's building material supplies, construction companies, we've been, and I'm sure other industries are similar, but we've been very slow to adopt technology. I think COVID, by the way, has absolutely speeded up the desire for businesses to use technology to streamline back office functions, to focus on front end. And I think that's been a great thing on what's come out of what was a negative thing in COVID. It certainly made us rethink about how we ran our business and actually how we embraced technology, whether it was Enable, Microsoft BI, CRM systems, about how we freed up staff's time to focus on what's important, which is giving a great customer service to our customers, and about identifying opportunities that we can sell additional products and make additional profit for us. And I think that's what technology brings to a business. It doesn't replace the need to have people. It just creates more productive people that deliver a better result for your organisation. And I think businesses that embrace that future thinking process, which it isn't future thinking for other industries, but it is future thinking for construction. I think anybody who embraces that will see a difference in performance in their business. So,
and you nailed it. Sorry, Mark, go ahead. I was just going to say,
brilliantly said. I think that's just what you were going to say.
Well, I was just going to say, like, that is the value proposition associated with, you know, what we're trying to build here. You know, what you talked about when it comes to the technology, and, you know, COVID taught us a valuable lesson in terms of how we can become a lot more efficient. Again, to your point, manage back office processes. You know, you talked about all the complexities associated with claimbacks, special pricing agreements, and we're taking account of all those associated activities and trying to create automated workflows, making sure that we have a repository of those contracts and agreements, so that it creates better transparency on the back end. But overall, there's an opportunity, as you mentioned, to, you know, reduce the over expenditures, especially from an operating expense perspective, but at the same time maintain your margins, especially with, you know, minimizing or mitigating any sort of risk. So no, I'm glad that you brought all those points up today.
Well, just think about it, Reggie. We in the UK, we currently have a skill shortage. We have full unemployment, so we have more vacancies than we have people unemployed. And you look at the different generations of people. So if you look at the construction, is still an old industry in the UK, still a lot of old people in it, very few young people. So we're going to have a real labour shortage going forward in the future. And you look at the new generation of kids that are coming through that have been used to using the iPhone, that have been used to Facebook and technology. They are not going to come and do jobs where they are shuffling pieces of paper and pulling spreadsheets together. So if anybody sits and thinks they're going to get a workforce in the future that will do that, they will have a staff turnover level like no other business has. So you have to understand the changing demographics and what people want from a future job. And doing basic administration tasks are not what we've created a future of children and young adults that have ambition and career that people prior didn't. They were quite happy to come into work and do a manual job. We've got a future generation that have got lots of ambition, lots of ideas, and sitting around pushing bits of paper around just to collect some cash in isn't their idea of a career. So you need to move with the times or be left behind. And that's what I think things like Enable and other pieces of technology make a massive difference to the future of success of businesses and staff retention.
That's magic right there, Reggie. That's the magic.
That was a mic drop moment right there. So a mic drop moment for, North American culture. That's just where we're just like, that was well done. Well said. But man, like, the way that Gareth articulated that point around this next generation that's coming up, we need to be cognizant of that, because you're absolutely right. The younger generation does not want to be paper pushers, right? They didn't sign up for that because we're living in a digital age space, and that's what they grew up in, right? So no, I loved how you wrap that up in a bow right there. Okay, cool.
No, my pleasure.
Well, we're over time, aren't we? But this was a fruitful conversation. I hope everybody in the audience learned a lot, because I know I certainly did just from this conversation. And any final words, Gareth? Words of inspiration? Anything?
Yeah, do I have any final words? I suppose, look, business is complicated, isn't it? And it's complicated because we make it complicated. The reality is, in material distribution, which has been my background, or manufacture, you either make something or you buy something. You add a margin, you deliver it on the same wagons as every of your competitors do, and you sell it. So you've got to control that sales, margins, costs. And the companies that can free up their staff to focus on giving the best service, that can understand their customer base, and who can keep their costs under control, focus on the best way of selling, which is looking after a customer, and focus on making a margin, they're the ones that'll grow and grow and grow, while everybody else who's focused inwards, creating processes and challenges, forgetting that actually the number one thing that we do is sell material to a customer, and do anything that can make that process better and make sure that everything else at the centre is smaller. They're the ones that'll be around. You look at the airline industry, how it's gone to the low-cost operators have cleared up, particularly in Europe. You look at supermarkets, the introduction of the low-cost market. Supermarkets are clearing up in the UK. They're not because they're offering a worse service proposition. It's because they understand what their customers want, what their needs are, and they operate the most efficiently in their sector. And they don't expect customers to pay a premium for good service. They expect the customer to pay the market rate, and they'll do it more efficiently than old traditional businesses who all have lots of high-paid executives thinking they're doing an amazing job, while actually the young upstart is absolutely clearing up left, right, and centre because they're more in tune with the customer. And I think anything that provides a software that allows our staff that time to be in tune with the customer, understand the market change and demand, then absolutely you should embrace it. And that's why I suppose with Enable, we did that on Rebates, the future with claimbacks. Those are the type of things that we need to embrace to do those things. And that'd be really it for me. Business is simple if you want it to be, difficult if you don't want it to be. So that's me.
I love
There you
that.
go, Reggie.
There's got to be a book somewhere. You got to be publishing a book with all that knowledge, all that insights. It's got to be packaged.
It's years of me and Mark arguing about my rebate number. Me blaming somebody else who I hadn't made the profit I needed to make.
It's all about it's going to be about how to maximize profitability. That's the name of your book.
Maximising opportunities is the strapline we used to use in C&L. So it's maximising opportunities.
Beautiful.
No, thank you, gents.
All right, no, thank you. And even before we
Thanks,
go, Mark, just so that you know, it was that was his name, the Gator. Will Ferrell's character. So in the other guy. So Chris Odell, big shout out to you. Thank you for answering that. Kale, thanks for tuning in, and everybody else, thank you for tuning in as well. We'll be back in another 2 weeks, but before then, below always, please join the community. And Gareth, we would love for you to join the Enable community. So just go to www.rebatestrategist.com and let's continue the conversation.
No, brilliant. Thank you, gents. And I'll definitely be watching the future podcasts.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gareth.
Thanks, Gareth.
My pleasure.
Take care, everybody.